This is a clip from the Red Cow Arcade podcast.
Should we talk about Righteous Gemstones?
Sure. Yeah.
Third one's out. I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen the third one?
No.
Well,
Sorry.
we can talk about the series in general, or the first two as well.
Well, I love it to
yeah.
death. It's fucking awesome.
It's just there's something about it that the performers are just all on point.
Yeah.
And
the direction is like A+. It's, I mean, I've said it before, like it's what an awesome thing that, you know, David Gordon Green was this director in the 90s that caught a lot. You know, he was kind of like the next Paul Thomas Anderson, or, you know, he was like a huge indie director in the 90s, and he ended up doing like a few broad comedies with Danny McBride, and now they're just like kind of doing these kinds of projects, these like HBO totally creative and weird and bizarre type projects, as well as Jody Hill, who directed Foot Fist Way with Danny McBride. So they were all college friends. They met in college, and Danny McBride was like just like another film student. And then he ended up having his own success with Foot Fist Way. David Gordon Green was successful in the 90s with his indie films, and they just kind of came back together. And now, you know, with Walton Goggins and this like little troupe they've got, they make beautiful art, you know, every few years. And it's like, if you're a lot of times when you watch a Danny McBride project, you go into it feeling like you're going to watch something of an Apatow-ish, Seth Rogen-ish nature, and you get something like far more enriching, you know?
Yeah, it feels a lot more deliberate and polished. Like every joke like just lands and is just very thoughtful. And I feel like
they're all basically the same. They're all about people with outsized egos, people that lack self-awareness, people who are more concerned about like they're over concerned about the way they're coming off, but they have like total blind spots to the ways they're coming off. They're basically always about those kinds of characters, like you know, like people that never grew up. But this story, this Righteous Gemstones story about spoiled brat religious children from this mega church, lends to it better. I think like most of his other characters in the past have not really come from privilege. They normally, you know, Kenny Powers, hit it, you know, he hit it big with, like, he happened to have this superpower of like batting or pitching rather. Otherwise he's a skunk. You know, Vice Principals is about somebody in a very low status in his life, you know, as is The Foot Fist Way is about a guy in a very low status. But this is about somebody who's supposed to be like carrying on a legacy, you know, a legacy that's so much better than he is. Of course, John Goodman has his moral problems. The mom, you know, I guess the Jason Schwartzman plot in this one is going to reveal that maybe the mom had some problems too. But as far as we know right now, she was a saint, you know?
Yeah. I don't think they're like kind of scumbags and narcissists, but I don't think they're unsympathetic either. I think that's the kind of the magic trick of it is like you root for them, even though they're like objectively awful or overprivileged or spoiled. You're just like, oh, I'm in for it, and I'm not repulsed by them completely because they're.
It's interesting. I wonder why that is. I wonder if it's just the case that the more we understand a character, no matter how reviled they are, if we understand them well, if we really can predict how they're going to act, know what makes them tick, know what upsets them, know what they're up against, then we kind of like root for them no matter what.
Yeah.
And I also like that, like there are, even though, so there's three children, there's Dan McBride, there's his sister, and there's his brother. And so they all share this kind of narcissism and this spoiled brat problem. You know, these like deeply immoral, you know, like supposed Christians, but they're all quite different as well. Like Kelvin is clearly the most moral of the three of them, right? Like he's the one who's like, I'm not breaking and entering, I'm leaving.
Yeah. But he's also like, he's got his own like repression issues going on. Right. And like Judy's probably the most chaotic, you know, person and
the most clearly mentally ill. I mean, that actress, she was very funny in Vice Principals. I mean, fucking hysterical in Vice Principals. But in this thing,
she's god tier.
She's god tier. She's like, and it's her energy, because all of her jokes, all of her improvs, whatever's coming, and I guess she helped write on the show, or she's a writer on the show. Everything that comes out of her mouth is funny, would be funny on paper. But she's got this mental illness energy, this kind of like manic, hyperventilating, on the brink. You know, if she suddenly took out a knife and fucking stabbed somebody, you wouldn't be shocked. She seems like she barely has control over what she's saying or doing at any given time.
Yeah, like one of my favorite lines from the previous episode is like, "Don't shake his hand, he's big dicking you." It's like everything like comes out so like authentic and like like biting, and it stabs you as she's saying it.
The one that in the first episode of this season, they're at church lunch, which cracks Nina and I up. Yeah, there's this very big ritual of like the minister's family goes to church lunch and is seen by all the people in the town that they're like, they go upstairs to have church lunch.
And they go to like some like Outback Steakhouse kind of place.
But it's like Outback Steakhouse. Yeah, exactly. It's great. And this argument breaks out where Danny McBride is trying to communicate to John Goodman, the dad, that he's an obvious successor when the dad dies, but the dad is not unwell or anything like that. So the whole thing comes off really inappropriate. But then the brother and sister start kind of like throwing out reasons why they should be the successor. And they end up in this chaotic argument about how the sister eloped at Disney, didn't invite any family. And they're like, so who officiated the wedding, Donald or Goofy? They're like, for your information, it was Prince Eric. And Danny McBride is like, who the fuck is Prince Eric? And her husband goes, only the hottest guy in the Disney catalog. But he comes off so, confident about it. Like there's nothing homosexual about this. I'm like, only the hottest guy in the Disney catalog. And then explains that, it's Little Mermaid's husband. And Judy's like, thank you. As if that like vindicates everything. And David Bride goes, so y'all went all the way down to Disney and didn't invite any family and didn't even get married by a legacy character.
Legacy character.
Like he's not implying like he's also like pretty invested in what a good Disney wedding would look like.
That's what makes me in for the ride, man. It's just like they like commit so hard and come off.
It's very, very, very funny. I mean, especially like Dan McBride used to appear in Seth Rogen's stuff, Pineapple Express and Tropic Thunder and stuff. So I always thought he was just going to kind of fall in with that crowd. Like he'd be another Jason Segel or something like that. And he's transcended it. Watch whatever, like the latest, like Neighbors 2 or whatever, and then watch this. It's just night and day. And when they do improv, it's always character-based stuff. But I still, we're talking about series and formats. I love these shows, and I love what a series, especially a streaming series where it doesn't have to be confined to 45 minutes or whatever. I love what they can do, but after a little while, it does make me kind of be like, I do love a good 90 minutes. I do love you gotta nail it in your 90 minutes. Legacy of a White-tailed Deer Hunter, which these guys also made, like just nails it in 90 minutes. Or hell, even the episode where the Misbehaving episode from season 1. It was just like a movie. But I suppose like that's also the power of streaming series is when, you can kind of make a beginning, middle, and end of any given episode. Any given episode should kind of stand on its own as like its own little work of art too.
Yeah, I mean that's what I love about series, and especially, series have traditionally been like 24 episodes. Remember, like 24 was 24 hours of television, and
that was clearly a mistake.
But you would have these episodes that were so transcendent that you were like, oh, that makes it kind of worth it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you'd have a bunch of stinkers. Or I think of like Lost, like you see the episode The Constant, which is probably some of the best episode of any television I've ever seen, but you had to wade through a bunch of horseshit to get there. So it's interesting where we are now, because you have Disney Plus shows, which are like six episodes sometimes, or 10 episodes or 8 episodes. And then you have Netflix shows, which can be like 13 episodes. So they're kind of like making these shorter experiences for television. But they're able to get more like movie quality budgets. It's an interesting time. I don't know if I think it's worse or better, or
I think it's always good when if you can make a flexible distribution format, then it means that you can get creative with the, I remember when we made Having Fun Up There, it was 65 minutes and people were like, is that legal? And it's like, well, could you make some 65-minute movies? And they're just perfect the way they are. Like, I'm hoping that there'll be a little more experimentation with format.
Or even The Irishman. That was pretty like experimental in length and format.
Right.
And that was for streaming. And I thought it was very effective, and it probably was only made possible through streaming. When they decide to just kind of go like unreasonably long, and the reasoning is like, well, you can pause anytime. It probably would be good if the artist would create natural stopping points, like we recommend you pause here, or something, Yeah, maybe. I definitely watched The Irishman like that.
Like you could even do it. You wouldn't have to like fuck with the actual movie. It'd be cool if there was like an overlay or something, like a little overlay at the top that was like this. The director thinks this is a good place to pause if you're looking to pause.
So the YouTuber who I reference a lot, Tim Rogers, who has those like 6-hour reviews, says things like that. It's like at the beginning of the thing, he's like, I recommend you pause here, here, and here. All right, on to the review.
Oh, that's really cool.
It's like,
I wonder why he decides to release such long stuff when he could just split it into multiple.
I think it's just his flair, and he definitely has benefited from it. I mean, nobody does what he does.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.